Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for listening today to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you the top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners and influencers. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can scale profitably. Today, I am joined by the very successful, very inspiring Alex Schlinskey from Prospecting on Demand. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Chris? Good to see you, brother. Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no. Thanks so much for being here and joining us. I think you're on the East Coast, right?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay, there we go. So it's morning for us. It's like midday for you.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, as with, we start off every show with kind of like a roundtable discussion. And today we've got a topic that's actually very near and dear to my heart, as I know that it is as well to you. And it's basically a story of struggling when your hero, your childhood hero, basically becomes human because of an illness. And so part of my story is that my father died of cancer back when I was 27. He was diagnosed in December of 2006, and he died almost exactly a month later, 3 days before my 27th birthday in January of 2007. And so I was reading your story that you had up on entrepreneurial.com about your father had a stroke when you were just 14 years old. And so let's talk about that, man. It's something that we don't necessarily talk about in the agency world, and definitely we don't have a lot of guys talking about these types of struggles. And unfortunately, at any point in time, we're going to have to deal with something like this. So let's hear it, man. Talk about that story, that time in your life. You were just a kid. Your dad had a stroke. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So I think at the highest level, like one of the things that you mentioned is, people, especially men, have a problem with kind of opening up their emotions and expressing their story. But what really happened for me is this story, it kind of crystallized who I am. And it was the metamorphosis from a child to an adult to an entrepreneur to someone who can impact people. And it's really important to be able to share that, even though there's other methods and methodologies that we can say and use to express our whys and stories, it's not as impactful. And I think one of the reasons, Chris, that people are afraid is social media has created this highlight reel, thinking that everything in life is always positive and everything's about winning and no one ever fails and no one makes mistakes, no one goes through shit. When the reality is, like, that's just the 1%, right? Like the 1% is all the highlights, and then the rest of it is all the garbage you had to sift through to get there. So the background to this story is both of my parents were entrepreneurs. Prior to being entrepreneurs, they both worked corporate jobs. My mom worked for Jessica McClintock for almost 20 years, which was a very famous jewelry and clothing company up in California. And we lived in Florida at the time. She used to have to fly back and forth 5 days a week to San Francisco. And she just couldn't handle that anymore. She quit her job and started pursuing her passion, which was, she's an incredible artist, unbelievable artist. And she opened up an art studio in Aventura, Florida, and had that for 10 years. About 4 years in, my dad had seen my mom's success, and he decided to quit the job he had been doing for 20 years, which was funeral directing. And funeral directing is a very difficult job, working with people at literally the most difficult time in their life, people that died from disease. Drugs, violence, accidents, anything you can name. My dad saw it in his 20 years of experience, and he started to bring it home with him in the last couple of years. And he wanted to do something to impact my family and other families in a more positive way. So he started a financial planning company. My dad, when he started the financial planning company, had a really good network already and created a very successful business in just about 3 years. He had over 30 clients. Now, I'm basically 11 to 14 in this transition. So my knowledge of finances, money, and ideas, it wasn't crystallized yet, right? That was not formed. But in retrospect, it's pretty easy to understand. We used to, go to Disney once a year as like maybe our family trip. And now suddenly we were going on a 7-day cruise ship to Alaska with 5 people. And, it's a lot more expensive, as you can imagine. Right. But I wasn't really putting those pieces together. But obviously things had changed for the better. The cars changed from Chryslers to Lexus, right? Like you could just see from the outside and definitely in retrospect. Unfortunately, life has a certain way about it that things don't maybe go as planned. My dad one night came home and said that he was feeling strange. So we rushed to the hospital, and apparently he had a brain aneurysm, which is a stroke. And he was out of commission for 18 months. Now, at the end of the story, the idea is he's alive and well today, and I would trade everything to make sure that he is alive and well. And I'm so insanely grateful and blessed for that. We're 12 years away, almost to the day. It was a week ago, actually, Chris, the anniversary. So it's really, really impactful story for me. But when he was out of commission for 18 months, everything possible that bad that went happened. We don't have to go into those notes, but essentially he was out of commission and could not work for over 18 months. And that's when we recognized.
Was he in a coma, or he was just not unable to move?
So basically he was okay. We caught the stroke early, so he was okay. But unfortunately he was having trouble sleeping because of it. So he started taking Ambien, woke up in the middle of the night without realizing, drove 20 miles on the highway before getting into an accident. Thankfully didn't hit anyone else, but crashed into a light post. Survived what most people would die from. Again, he's a very stubborn person, so that's why I think he survived. He then had a tumor in his back and then got MRSA from the tumor, and just every compounding effect that possible could have happened for him not to be able to work for 18 months, basically. And during that time, we saw the effects of what happens when someone thinks you have a business, but it's truly just a freelancing job. Yeah. And my dad had a great freelancing job, not a business. He had not set up systems in the company to allow himself to remove himself, because why would he? What did he think? He was a very healthy 50-year-old male, ate well, worked out every single day, and overall was just a fit person. And then, that just happened, just like that. So when that happened, we lost the house that I was born in. We lost the cars. I had to leave the school I was going to. I didn't find out until later that my closest friend's parents paid for me to come back to that school. I didn't even know about that. Wow. These things that happen, these detrimental effects. And again, we would trade all of it for my dad to be alive, which is what the case is. But my parents still have to pay back debt, almost 10 years, 12 years later. They built themselves back up in a very impressive fashion. But what I learned from that day, and it was just a stark contrast, is resonating and understanding the importance of really having systemized business operations. So when I left school and I met my wife in high school, and I knew we were going to get married. So we went to college together, and then we got married after college. I knew that I wanted to have children and a family with her and be able to provide without having a freelance job, which is hard, but I learned from it. So I built out every system I possibly could for my digital marketing agency, which was Sky Social Media, worked with personal injury attorneys and built my company to about $10,000 recurring revenue, hired fulfillment agencies, processes, systems, and ziplocked that company, hired a COO, and I don't do anything for that company. I've built it out very successfully, allowing myself to do what I'm most impacted by, what I'm most passionate of, which is helping entrepreneurs break free from the freelancer's trap and remove themselves as the main person doing everything, wearing all the hats, position themselves as a CEO for a really scalable, profitable business that's systemized. That became my main focus. And even though it's hard even today to talk about the story, Chris, as I'm sure you understand probably more than anyone, it's important. It's critically important. The story that I shaved away from this was that I used to work for the Miami Dolphins and the UFC. And that was a passion that I had when I was a kid. And I used to use this story when I was coaching originally, that I worked for the Dolphins, and then I felt like I wasn't making an impact because I'm writing about sports, which is a great hobby, but not really impactful. And I wasn't making enough money. And that's a good segue into why I started coaching and building my agency. But it's not really who I am. It's not really why I did this. And why I really did this and who I really am is a person that understood that everything that's at stake and everything could be lost in an instant, that there's too much on the line not to put together the appropriate systems and processes. And I wanted to make sure if I could stop someone from getting stuck in the freelance model, then I want to be a part of that. And that was my mission.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to get back to the agency in a second. I do have one more question regarding your dad. So for me, when my dad was sick, because it happened so quickly, it was almost too much to absorb at once. Like I was having a really hard time processing. But it did really hit me because, you see the frailty in your dad. And especially when you're a young kid, your dad's your hero. Your dad's like this invincible person that can't be hurt. And then when they get sick, you see they're human. You really get to see the humanity in your hero, and that they aren't as strong as you thought that they were. So what was that like for you, being this teenager who's on the verge of becoming a man and seeing your father sick and pretty much helpless? How did that impact you?
It's two feelings. At the moment, despair,
Mm-hmm.
lost. It's like, have you ever played Sims or like Roller Coaster Tycoon? It's like dropping that one character just like in the middle of nowhere and they're like
Mm-hmm.
lost and scared. That's what it was like. It was like just, I lost my guidance. And you said something that was impactful to me just now. You said that maybe they weren't as strong as we thought. In retrospect, I realized how much stronger he was than I realized. He's much stronger than I realized. It's hard for me to compile the emotions and elucidate on them effectively. And I'm pretty, articulate in the way that I speak, but this is such a emotionally driven thing that you feel like something in your throat when you're talking about it.
Yeah.
I think like the most important thing for me to recognize was, number one, anything can happen at any time, and life is extremely random. And gratitude, perspective, and just really enjoying the present, like understanding why they use the word present for time. Present is also a synonym for gift. That's not a coincidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side was, watching my dad on a hospital bed, not feeling his feet or not understanding how to like speak appropriately is scary, definitely scary. But then watching him battle through everything he had to battle through, where in my mind, it's like he's going up to the opportunity of God facing him. And he's just like, no, like I'm not going. It's not happening, period. You can do whatever you want. You can put whatever's in front of me, but it's not going to happen. And that's really what I used in my mindset. Years afterwards, the year of, to be totally real with you, Chris, I blacked it out for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really long time. I'm 27 now.
Yep.
So it was about 12, 13 years ago. And I just blacked it out. I blacked it out for a long time because it was just such immense pain and suffering for everyone in my family. Honestly, more of my mom than anyone, like, because obviously it was very, very difficult for her. So it was really hard for me to really think about it, because I don't think I was just like, it's like a movie, like flashing in front of you. Not like, I was never in the moment. Like I remember some very stark moments of some people in high school, like guidance counselors, that were just unbelievably impactful. And I wish I could say something to them. I haven't been able to find them on Facebook, actually. So Mr. Eastman, if you ever listen to me or watch me, I appreciate you so much. You really changed my life, to be honest. And Rabbi Shaki really changed my life too. He actually married my wife and I about 8 years later, which was awesome.
Great.
Yeah, man, it was crazy difficult. It was crazy difficult. But I think just like you understand, it's so important to express and share, because it crystallizes who you are as a person. It makes you recognize really what you do this for. So that I can do cartwheels out of bed every morning, knowing that I'm making a difference or doing something that actually matters, not just, writing about Ronda Rousey or how bad the Miami Dolphins are.
Awesome, man. Well, I mean, it's your why is very, very similar to mine. So I really appreciate you sharing that story. So let's fast forward. So you start this digital agency, and you're still a young guy. You're still only 27. At what age did you start your agency?
So it's tough I get this question a lot, right? So is it when I had my first client, or when I said to myself that I'm starting an agency? So it was kind of two, right? So I actually had an agency for maybe every year in college, 4 years really, but I didn't realize that, right? Because I had one client, a little bit more. So I'll kind of break down what happened. My next door neighbor in Hollywood, Florida, where I'm born and raised, was an attorney. And before I left to college, as I graduated high school, Facebook just released for the first time Facebook pages. This is even before they offered ads. This is a while ago, right? But he was ahead of the curve. He could see. And he was like, Alex, I want you to post for me on Facebook. I'm going to pay you $1,000 a month, which at that time was amazing. Post free on Facebook every day from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. He was a personal injury attorney. And I'm confident that this is going to be important for me later on. I'm sure Google will pick it up. Like he was on it. He knew. Like it was
this is rare from an attorney, because attorneys are never like this.
He knew. And it's really impressive. An amazing human being. When I went to school, I worked with him for the summer. And then I went to school. He paid me with a PS4, which I still have to this day, which is funny. And then he started paying me when I went to school $1,000 a month. And when I went to school, I asked him if he had any other attorneys that he went to school with that are in Orlando. Not only did he send me some referrals in Orlando, he sent me people in Tallahassee and Gainesville and California and Chicago. And he sent me about 20 referrals, and 10 of them became clients of mine. And I worked with those clients for couple months, but I did not know what I was doing. So I lost all of those clients pretty quickly. not to the happiness of the original referrer, as you can imagine. But it was really my first foray into the opportunities. I then also picked up the Miami Dolphins job in junior year of college. I didn't really have a lot of financial help, so I needed some extra money. So I was doing that a little bit while studying to become a psychologist, which we can talk about too. So I didn't really think about an agency model. It was kind of like I'm freelancing, doing some things and making some money and feeling myself,
Right.
ooh, I'm making money. I'm in school. Yeah, I'm good. I got this. But it didn't really crystallize until after school. So I went to school to become a psychologist.
Yes.
My biggest goal in life when I started, especially after what happened to my dad, was helping impact people at difficult moments in their life. I find that to be extremely important. My family was also affected by suicide, my great-grandparents and my grandparents. So that was something that was really important to me, to help people close the gap of the human, really the human spectrum, like what we feel is the human condition. And I wanted to make a difference on that. I was fascinated by criminal psychology because I'm such an open-hearted, caring human being. And I could see, Chris, you're very similar. Like there's people I build rapport with right away immediately because you can sense that. You can feel their heart on their sleeve. And there's other people that are closed off. And there's nothing wrong with being introverted. And then there's the really negative side, people that are psychotic and literally demented and have horrible thoughts and do horrible things. And we still see this, unfortunately, today. But I was fascinated by that because I could not psychologically understand that. I could not bring myself to get to that notion, right? And Columbine happened when I was a little kid, 9/11. And of course, I'm Jewish, so the Holocaust. I don't understand these things. How does this happen? What is the human condition happening? Like, what's going on here? So I studied to become a criminal psychologist. I was actually fascinated by potentially being part of like criminal investigation, and I really wanted to do that. And then I realized immediately after college ended, unfortunately, what I was doing was I was fascinated by something in theory, not in reality. I had an externship about 2 months after I graduated from school to go to a battered women's home and talk to these women about their experiences in life and try to understand how we can fix or avoid this from happening later on. And these are just women that have just been beaten by other, abusive husbands and then fathers and then friends. And just, it was extremely difficult. And I was, I think, 19 maybe. It was I was very upset at myself at that time, Chris, because I felt really stupid, to be honest. Like I fantasized something so terrible to the point that I thought I'd be desensitized to it, but I was so far from desensitized. I was totally not equipped mentally to handle it. And it's an extremely important job. And then I felt right after school ended back at square one.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucked, man. It sucked so bad. So I went back to what I know, which is sports. And I worked with the Dolphins. I worked with the UFC. And I had a couple of attorney clients still, but I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know. I thought for sure for years I was Dr. Alex Schlinskey in my head. That was for sure going to happen. Like that was certain. That was certain, Chris. And for that not to happen was like very alarming and very difficult. So I graduated, and then just by serendipity, honestly, I went to an event in Hollywood, Florida, a MMA event. And this guy was on this Twitter application I'd never seen before called TweetDeck. And I reached out to him and I was speaking to him, and he was telling me that he's a social media manager. And for the first time, he put words to what I was doing, right? I had not searched it. I had not seen ads for it. I had not seen anything before. So what I was doing, I just thought I was just working for an attorney, right? I wasn't a social media manager at the time, Chris. I wasn't an agency owner at the time. But for the first time, it was framed that way by someone else. And he was getting paid $1,000 to post one tweet a day. I was like, oh, I do that for attorneys. Like, oh, great. Take my card. Like, we can potentially work together. And that sparked it. A month later, literally, called me out of nowhere and told me that he got hired by Razorfish, which is a big marketing agency in Seattle. And he needed to hand off his freelance clients, who are sport companies, needing people to tweet for them every day. That's me. That's this guy. He gave his clients to me, 5 clients at $1,000 each, just like that. And he's like, I want you to do this for yourself and your family and give the best results possible. And someone that's so giving like that really heavily impacted me, because that's who I am. Like, I'm always trying to give as much as possible. Sometimes it's a little too much, but that's okay. Like, I'd rather give too much than take. And it was just an amazing moment for me. And at that moment is when I really started. I was like, okay, I want to build this business. So I started Sky Social Media. I started honing in on Am I going to do sports or am I going to do this? I got into some entertainment business. I was kind of mixing and matching for about a year and a half, but the up and down was freaking me out because of what happened with my dad. I needed to build something. So I specialized in attorneys. I really honed in on it, created a very effective model that didn't just solve the service level problem, which was lead generation. I solved the productivity problem by providing the CRM. I provided them with a nurture solution by giving them email prospecting solutions and how to follow up appropriately. And we provided them with the lead generation solution, which made me stop fighting for the bottom of the barrel and start providing an elite service that allowed me to charge $5,000 to $10,000 per client. I was very, very successful with this after I hired Reach Local, which was a white label marketing agency that I brought on because I didn't know how to do fulfillment. I just knew I was really good at bringing on leads and closing them. Brought it to a very successful point. Probably, I think I was like 20, 21 at this time, like 6 years ago at this point, and which is crazy. Time goes by so quickly, right? And crushed it. We just absolutely crushed it. I did something really stupid then. I got a little greedy, to be honest, and I went away from Reach Local thinking I had all the systems. Lost about half my clients, went back to Reach Local, my tail between my legs. I'm sorry about this. Let's make this my business. And I've worked with them since. I don't lose clients ever, really. We have a very effective model that I work with. And then I started POD about 2 years after I really honed in my model because I had a business that was working without me and I knew I could start coaching it. And this is what I found myself to be most passionate about: speaking, coaching, mentoring, and helping people. And it's an amazing journey. And I'm so grateful. But I've really only scratched the surface of what we're capable of in prospecting on demand.
I like how you say, like one of the things that got you interested in psychology was that you wanted to help people and you wanted to understand. And I think it's interesting now that you've transitioned into a coaching business where you are now also helping agency owners. And in many ways, you are helping them solve problems that empower them to create a better life for themselves as well as the people that they love. So talk about the coaching business and what are some of the things that you are doing. Actually, let me ask the question this way because I want you to be very specific. What is the number one problem that you see with most agency owners, and how do you help them solve that problem?
Lack of clarity. It's not even agency owners. It's human beings, entrepreneurs in general. Lack of clarity. When I ask someone what they want to do as success, they're like, I want to be financially free and I want time freedom. Okay. Now, financially free to Chris Martinez, to Alex Schlinskey, to my wife, to the people watching this is completely different. Success is a subjective definition. I don't determine your success. You determine the success. So lack of clarity. So ambiguity, without question, is number one biggest problem by far. I want to tell a story about this and then I'll explain how I solve it specifically. Please. So when I was younger, before my dad went into financial planning, a lot of my friends' parents were doctors, attorneys, mortgage brokers, making a lot more money clearly based on the house size and the cars. And I'm maybe 10 at this time. I think it was during the transition for my dad. But I asked him one day while we were walking, I'm like, Dad, why are you not as successful as some of these other people, right? And he had the chance to be extremely upset about that question, or he could use it as a learning lesson, which is what he did. I remember so clearly, like vividly, I can close my eyes and just remember it like so much. Put his hands on my shoulders, stopped while we're walking, looked me in the eyes, and he said, I'm the most successful person in the world. What? What are you talking about? How could you say that? He said, Alex, I'm the most successful person in the world. I have a beautiful wife that loves and cares about me. I have 3 incredible sons that I'm so proud of that bring me life. I have an incredible community of people that care about us and our family. And I cannot be more grateful than I am here today. I'm the most successful person in the world. And that really impacted me. That really changed the person that I was, because I think a lot of people allow other people to determine their success. They watch Grant Cardone or Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins or Tim Ferriss or
Ty Lopez.
They listen to these people and then they let their success be determined by those people. No one can determine your happiness, your success, what you want to achieve. Only you can. And what I do with people to create clarity is I don't allow them to use emotions or words without clarifying it. So I did a speech on Saturday night about sales, and someone got up and he's like, what do you do if you're fearful of sales? And I said, come up to the stage. And I called him out on this. Like, I was like, okay, what are you fearful of? And he's like, I'm scared of getting no. I'm like, okay, and what happens if you get a no? Then I'll get another call and I'll try to optimize it. Okay, and then what's going to happen there? Well, maybe I'll get a yes or a no. Okay, and what if they say no? If they say no, then I'm going to optimize it again. And we're breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down until the point you recognize the fear, the way that you're expressing fear is just based on a baseless emotion, not based facts or ideas or thought processes. Is the crocodile brain working for you instead of the articulate, logical human being that you are, the problem solver that you are. And yet there's so many brilliant human beings out there with so much impact to make, and yet they're limiting themselves based on either trying to follow someone else's path or plan, what they've deemed as success, or they're having 1,000 puzzle pieces and they didn't put the process together. So what I do specifically is I make people every single month identify a goal and then work it backwards. You want to hit $10,000 a month? First of all, why? What does $10,000 a month do for you? If you cannot clarify that, then you'll never hit it. It will not matter to you. That's number one. Number two, if you need to hit 10,000, let's work it backwards. How many clients do you need? If you are doing it at $2,500, you need 4 clients. If you need 4 clients, how many sales calls do you need? Do you close at 50%, or do you think that's your KPI? You're going to need 8 sales calls. If you need 8 sales calls to get 4 clients to get to 10K because you want to take your wife to Australia and you want to pay rent this month, then what do you need to do to get on the 8 sales calls? You need to reach out to 16 people because you get 50%. You need to reach out to 36, 84, 100 people. How many people do you need to reach out to? Now that you have the numbers, right? Even if it's just guessing, right? At the end of the month or even in the month, you can clearly identify how close you are to the KPI. If you get on 8 sales calls but only close 2 people, fix the KPI for the next month. Don't sit there and think I'm such a failure. That's part of the process. Right. What do you expect? You're just going to like smash a home run right away? It's not how it works. So that's really, in my opinion, the biggest obstacle. Clarity is honestly the biggest obstacle. Most people have the answers. Most people have the information. Most people have the puzzle pieces. They lost what the puzzle is. So what I do is I take them on the yellow brick road. I'll bring you to Oz. We'll develop Oz. We'll bring up what you want to do, and then we will drive it with you down the yellow brick road. That's what happens rather than jumping from thing to thing. That's really what I believe is the biggest obstacle in the agency space.
That's great, man. I love that you're doing this because, again, you're a practitioner, kind of like me. We've run agencies before. We know exactly what it takes. And I'm very impressed that you've been able to do this at such a young age. I'm 12 years older than you now. And back, when I was 27 years old, I don't think that I could have even imagined doing what I'm doing now. And the fact that you were able to realize a lot of your potential at such a young age is very inspiring to me as well.
Appreciate you.
Well, we're just about out of time. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Definitely the best way is Facebook. Prospectingondemand.com is also a really good way. But I'm always on Facebook in terms of communicating with entrepreneurs. So I'm sure that we'll have a link there, but it's facebook.com/Schlinskey, SCHLINSKY, or you can go to prospectingondemand.com and you'll find me there as well. That's the best way to get in contact with me.
I think I actually found you on Facebook because I was watching you being interviewed by somebody else, Nathan Hirsch, who owns FreeUp, and he's actually going on the show as well.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I think he was interviewing you, or you were interviewing him, one or the other. I can't remember. And then here we are today. So yeah, you're definitely active on Facebook.
Yes, 100%.
And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
Honestly, in terms of working with me, a person that is running an agency that has 1 to 3 clients already, but is really juggling everything, the prospecting, the sales, the delivery, the fulfillment, you're dealing everything yourself and you want to remove yourself from that. Those are the people. But
is there like honestly, a revenue? Is there like kind of like a revenue point?
Yeah, I mean, if you should at least be at probably 2,000 a month or so.
Okay.
But in terms of just someone that needs advice or help or someone to really feel like getting the push, I don't care where you are. Just message me. The idea of having this limitation or the only way you can talk to me is if you're going to pay me. I don't like that model.
Right.
I try to live based off that Cameron model, that guy who gave me those clients. It's like, I'm going to do what I can when I can, right? I have 24 hours in the day like everyone else. I have clients that do pay me. I have a life. I have a wife. That's the most important part. I give everything I've got though. So if you just need me in general and you just want someone to pick you up or need something from me, don't worry about reaching out. I'll happily help you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much, Alex, for joining us today. And to all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. And make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.